Good morning, Steve Jolly with Benchmark Realty, and welcome to the Music City Show for August 6th, 2020. I am so excited that you're here with us today. I want to give a special thank you to all my loyal viewers who tune in every week on Thursday morning shortly after 8 a.m. And I want to give a special thank you if you're tuning in for the first time. Welcome to the Music City Show. We hope you enjoy the show this morning. I think we have a pretty cool show lined up for you. We are going to talk about what you shouldn't let your agent do to you, and we're also going to talk about the update, and then I'll give you a sneak peek into what's coming up next week, the housing update. All right, so let's dive in. Now, if you're like me and you despise working with large corporations, then this show is going to be for you. Now, let me tell you why I don't like working with large corporations. It's usually to solve a problem, you have to get bounced around from person to person till you finally get to the person that is the one person that can solve your problem. And then once you finally get to them, you find out they're on vacation for a week. Oh, that's so frustrating, right? So, in order to solve a small problem that should take a few minutes, you end up spending hours to resolve that problem. And it's just not a good feeling. It's terribly frustrating. It's stressful. And the reason why the corporations do that is because that process works for them. And not for you. So that's why a long time ago, when Gretchen and I decided to go into real estate, we were going to be different than the average agent. And what we were going to do is we were going to have one point of contact from the beginning from day one all the way through closing day. So you have one person to talk to if you have an issue. One person is going to resolve it. Your main advocate all the way from the beginning to the end of the contract. Although Gretchen and I work together and we bring in vendors, we bring in experts as needed, we don't use a team approach to the sale of your home. And we also don't use transaction coordinators. We are going to coordinate the transaction ourselves, which I believe is the most difficult part of the process. That's because you have hundreds of people between appraisers and the lenders and the underwriters and the loan processors and the title companies and the inspectors, and all these folks are all working behind the scenes to make your transaction happen. It only takes one of them to mess up and your transaction comes to a screeching halt. All your plans can go up in flames because one person didn't do their job. I've seen it happen before. And so that's why that transaction coordination is so important. So we are going to be your one point of contact from the beginning to the end. Now, it doesn't seem like a big deal to most people, but here's why it matters. I'm going to give you a couple things to think about. I'm going to ask you some questions. Who is going to understand your unique needs better? The person that you've been working with since day one, or somebody that stepped into the transaction halfway through to take over? Who is going to be the best person to make sure your transaction moves through all the necessary steps, moves around all the obstacles, gets all the way to the closing table? Who is going to be that best person to make things happen for you? Is it going to be a person that has all these personal relationships with most of these key stakeholders in the process? Or is it going to be the new guy on the team? And lastly, who is your best advocate during this trying time? Is it the person that's closest to you and the transaction? Or is it somebody that you've just met? Those are all good questions. I want you to think about it and to see why it matters. If those things matter to you, then I think we would be a great team to work for you. And here's what Gretchen and I truly believe. We truly believe you are best served by the agent you hired from the beginning, from day one, all the way through the end of the process, all the way to the closing table. And that is what we're going to do for you. Now let's move on to the market update for the week. Good news pretty much all around. Sales are still increasing. We are on a 6-week run where we're beating 2019. We beat it 6 weeks in a row. That's huge compared to where we were earlier this year. As you can see, going all the way back to January, we were tracking basically we were basically tracking with 2019. We were a little ahead in some places, a little bit behind. And now for the last 6 weeks, we're consistently tracking ahead of 2019. That is good news. New listings. So here we are. This is probably the biggest area that I'm concerned about. Even though we were way behind earlier in the year, back in March and April, we've caught up and we're basically tracking just behind 2019. Over the last 6 weeks or so, we've had a couple weeks where we've jumped ahead of last year, but we're tracking just behind. And the reason why that concerns me a little bit is because new listings are the lifeblood of real estate. If there's nothing to sell, then all these people that are looking for homes can't do transactions. We can't have sales. We can't have showings. Everything rides on new listings, and that is really the demand right now is much higher than the inventory out there. So we need new listings. If you're thinking about selling your home, it's not too late to do that. There's plenty of buyers out there in the market. If you have questions or concerns, you can always text or call me at 615-257-9996. Let's take a look at showings for the week. Still, there's a huge, strong demand out there. Stronger than it was even at the beginning of the year back in January and February. We are on a 13-week run versus 2019, and we are significantly ahead of that. We're probably close to the point where we're starting to plateau for the year, but I'm not ready to call that yet. But there's still a huge demand out there for homes. Keep that in mind. And then also, this really proves that demand is really strong. This is the homes that go under contract. Once again, a 15-week run versus 2019. We've been ahead 15 weeks in a row. We're significantly ahead of 2019 now. I think we've made up more than we lost during March and April. So the demand is strong. People are taking action, and that is a good sign for the market. So if you are considering listing your home, keep that in mind. The demand is really still strong out there. And now that July is completed, we look at the median price for the whole month. It turned out to be just under $330,000 at $329,900. So the median price for July, $329,900. That's the highest median price we've had in 15 or 16 months. It was about $10,000 higher than in June. So that's another indication that that strong market is driving prices up. We don't have as much inventory. We're not seeing crazy high prices going way over the list price, but the demand is strong. We're still seeing a lot of multiple offers out there. So that's good news for the strength of the market. Now, if you like looking at these charts, if you want to dig in more for your own information, all these charts are interactive. And all you have to do is go to musiccityshow.com, and you can see all of these things, and you can play with them yourself. You can watch a replay of this show. You can catch some of the old shows I've done. There's a lot more information on there. musiccityshow.com is the place you want to go. And wrapping it up, we've got a big surprise coming to you next week. I can't tell you what that is yet, but I think you're going to like it. And then following that, so you'll have to just tune in to see what it is. And then following next week, we are going to do a show. We're going to do a series for buyers. So if you're thinking about buying a home in 2020 or even next year, this would be a great show for you to watch, or it's a great series of shows for you to watch. I think you'll learn a lot, and you'll have the opportunity to ask questions. And I think it'll be very valuable to you. So that is our show for the week. We want to thank everyone for tuning in today. We really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, you have any concerns, you can always text me or call me at 615-257-9996. Take care. Have a great week, and peace and love, y'all.